Welcome back to In 5 Minutes, where history comes alive, one story at a time. Today, we're diving into a cornerstone of American foreign policy that reshaped the Western Hemisphere's future. And a day America spoke and the whole world shocked and listened. It's the early 19th century. A young American republic finds itself at a crossroads, emerging from the shadows of the War of 1812, striving to assert its place on the world stage. Today, we venture into the early 19th century, a time when the Americas became the chessboard for European powers, each move fraught with ambition and the quest for dominion. The stage was vast, the dice cast, and the players, mighty European empires. Fresh from the scars of the Napoleonic Wars and their desire to expand territories and influence knew no bounds. Across the Atlantic, the New World beckons, rich with promise and the allure of unclaimed territories. Amidst this global game of power, the fledgling nations of Latin America fought for their independence, their dreams of self-determination clashing with the Old World's colonial ambitions. It was a time of transformation, of empires and rebels, each fighting to shape the future of a continent. Enter the United States, a young nation watching closely as its neighbors fought for their sovereignty. It was here, in this moment of uncertainty, that President James Monroe makes a bold proclamation, a doctrine that would echo through the ages. Monroe, along with his Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, saw an opportunity not just to protect these fledgling democracies but to assert a bold American stance. European colonization in the New World was henceforth unwelcome, and any attempt to control or influence these nations would be seen as an act of aggression against the U.S. Throughout this Union address, President Monroe was effectively putting the European powers on notice. No other paragraph encapsulated this paragraph.
With the existing colonies or dependencies of any European power, we have not interfered and shall not interfere. But with the governments who have declared their independence and maintained it, and whose independence we have, on great consideration and on just principles, acknowledged, we could not view any interposition for the purpose of oppressing them, or controlling in any other manner their destiny, by any European power in any other light than as the manifestation of an unfriendly disposition toward the United States.
These were not just words. This was force projection. It was a declaration of independence for the entire Western Hemisphere from European intervention. It had three key principles: no further European colonization, abstention from European wars, and a warning against European interference in the affairs of the Western Hemisphere. But why did Monroe take such a stand? It wasn't just about protecting neighbors. It was about vision. Monroe saw a future where the Americas were free to develop without the shadow of European empires looming over them. He envisioned the U.S. as a beacon of democracy and freedom, guiding the New World towards a destiny separate from the Old World's battles and conquests. It was a strategic move against tangible threats, like Russia's southward expansion from Alaska and claims over North American territories. The Adams-Onis Treaty PF 1819 resolved the boundary disputes between the U.S. and Spain and resulted in Spain ceding Florida to the U.S., exemplified the weakening European hold in the Americas. It underscored the U.S. stance against European colonialism, setting a stage for the Monroe Doctrine. The early ideas of laying the groundwork for the Manifest Destiny Doctrine, the belief in U.S. expansion across North America. It marked an early assertion of U.S. influence and ambition for dominance in the Western Hemisphere. On that day in 1823, as Monroe's words resonated through the halls of Congress, it echoed across the oceans. The United States would no longer be a passive observer in global affairs. It was the dawn of a new era, an era where America declared its intention to play a leading role on the world stage. Interestingly, while the Monroe Doctrine warns off European colonizers, it inadvertently aligns with British interests. Keeping Latin America open for trade benefits Britain's economy, showcasing the complex web of interests and ambitions that define this era. It was a masterclass of international diplomacy from a young country coming of age and stacking a claim to its destiny. The Monroe Doctrine was a pivotal moment in American history, setting the stage for the U.S. to become a global superpower. It was a declaration of the nation's values and a bold assertion of its sovereignty and influence. And it all began with a vision of a world where the Americas stood united, free from the yoke of European dominion. The Monroe Doctrine, articulated during his 7th annual State of the Union address, is a clear message to the European powers: the Americas are no longer open for colonization. The Monroe Doctrine, a cornerstone of American foreign policy, was more than a warning to European powers. It was a statement of vision, a claim to leadership in the Western Hemisphere. It laid the groundwork for the United States' future role on the world stage, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the America story. That wraps up our whirlwind tour of the Monroe Doctrine, a pivotal moment when America stepped boldly onto the world stage, ready to defend its neighbors and champion the cause of freedom and project its power. Thanks for joining me on this journey through history in 5 minutes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that bring the past to life. Tune in tomorrow for another episode where we'll explore how F.D. Roosevelt's Four Freedoms speech shaped the post-World War II world. Until then, keep curious and keep exploring.